40-plus years of iconic hits will take the stage at the Minnesota State Fair with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on August 29th. And we've got your tickets to be there. Be caller, let's say 11 right now, and you'll win a pair of tickets to the show, plus 2 Minnesota State Fair admission tickets. Call right now.
One more segment with Daniel House, Gophers Guru, gophersguru.com, at Daniel House, MN on Twitter. Guards in for Barrero today. 30 minutes from now, more Vikings discussion with Ben Goessling. Johnny Athletic will give us his thoughts and his reporting on the Wolves ownership change that we all learned about this morning. Quick text to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686 House with the new 5 for 5 rule. Any chance Tanner Morgan can be a late addition? Tanner Morgan can be a late addition. He's officially
out of eligibility, unfortunately, as much as we'd love to have Tanner around again.
He is the Vikings team chaplain now. The Vikings team chaplain. So he's got a good gig. He's doing stuff with us on Fox. He's doing some Big Ten Network stuff. He's got a great gig.
Yes.
Let's start here because I've talked about Gophers Guru. I haven't allowed you to explain to those on the KFAN side what the heck that means. What is it? How can we learn more about it?
It's a subscription-based website. Fans can subscribe by going to gophersguru.com. $5 a month gets you access to a next-level approach to Gopher football coverage. So, teaching fans about the game, things they should watch for, like schematically, highlighting features of certain players, just giving you a wide-ranging look at Gopher football and Gopher athletics in general, dabbling into basketball occasionally when you have time, because football is like a full gig now, Guardsy, with the portal.
For sure.
Things are even going on today with the transfer portal. Like, that's the fun part, is there's a lot of great content. Going to start dabbling into the podcasting space, subscriber-exclusive pods during the season, so very excited about that. So that's part of the package. If you go check it out, gophersguru.com.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And it's good because House doesn't just know the Gophers. He knows literally every team. It's a little bit sick how much he loves football, but we were talking during the break, what else are you going to do, right? This is what you love.
What else am I going to do? Like, this is my passion since I've been like 8.
Yes.
I remember going to Vikings training camp 2003, man. Literally, I go every year to training camp. So I had to keep the streak going 23 years in a row.
That's great. Year. That's great. No, and that's why the site's good, and that's why you're good here. What do you hope to see from Danny Collins year 1 to year 2?
You know what I like about Danny is Danny's an influence of everybody he's been around. Joe Rossi, obviously a great defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman. But then there's the unique twist of Danny Collins. Like, you see some of that, like, inspiration from all of them, but like even a Brian Flores tinge to what he does, being able to have a lot of different packages and looks that he can implement, becoming a defense that I think is going to be very safety driven. It always has been. The safety position's been very important, but I see a lot of versatility in that room. Coy left, but like Kerry Brown returned, who can do a lot of different things in the defense. Aiden Gooseby can play corner or safety depending on what they need. The guy to watch is Zach Harden. Zach Harden, when he rolls down to the box, he's very physical. He can cover pretty well. If I had to peg maybe a merging young guy that could see a nice little role this year, it's probably Zach Harden. And even Garrison Monroe, too, who's been around the program.
Yep.
He's kind of using in that, middle hole robber type of role. Can play early down nickel as well. So I like how the safety room shakes out, just because I think that they can probably play some multi-safety packages, which should help versus some of the offenses they're going to see this year.
Harden was the one who I believe tweeted out the day that Coy Parrish entered the portal, right? Was basically like, my turn or something like that. But that's probably right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Here's a tweet or a text I got. I told you about one of the texts from Meat Sauce Paul Lambert during the break. This guy is A+. He's talking about you. But this is what he asked me earlier, and I gave him kind of my thoughts, and then he clarified, and you're the perfect guy to ask. If you had to guess and be right, how many players from this year's Gopher football team get drafted in 2027?
In 2027? Ooh.
So next year. This is from, I don't know why Meat Sauce needs this information, why he was thinking about it at 2:42 on a Friday.
Him and Tommy made a bet, I believe, yesterday morning. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
They did? Ooh, so I'm going to be kind of like...
Tommy bet on the side of Gophers getting drafted.
He has probably 12, like 2 in each round, 14 Gophers getting drafted.
I'm going to say probably maybe 4.
Okay, so next year, so it's Anthony Smith.
Yep.
It's Greg Johnson.
Yep.
Maverick Baranowski.
Maybe.
Maybe. That's what I told him. Maybe. John Nestor? He's got another year, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he might come back for another year.
And are you saying Drake Lindsey goes?
Drake Lindsey, possibly. I don't know. Darius Taylor?
That's who I wondered about.
This is a big year for him.
Yes, it is.
There's some uncertain names here that, like, if they have a really good year,
yes,
that it makes it tough to predict. Like, Anthony Smith's obviously a lock. Greg Johnson's obviously a lock. Like, you can bet on those two. And I'd even say I think Maverick has a lot of potential too. Like, he could be in that mix.
I'm kind of with you too. He's kind of sneaky. You don't think about him, and then you look at the numbers, and he's done it over and over again. You're like, yeah, I could see that.
I think if he can expand his coverage skills, and I know that's been a big point of emphasis for him this offseason, I think that could help him a lot too.
So are we settling in at 2, or are we going to go like 2.5? Where do you remember what the number was, Max? Were you there?
I was there, yeah.
And you don't remember?
I don't. I was meat saucing it.
I know how that goes.
100%. Yeah.
I know how that goes. That's okay. So we've got 2 for sure, but as many as like 4 or 5 is what we're thinking.
It just depends on how the season goes,
Okay, so let's go there. How's the season going to go? Tell me about the Gophers schedule as you see it.
It's going to be interesting because they're going to see a lot of mobile quarterbacks. And I mean, we talked about that in the break here. Just Kamario Taylor, Mississippi State, he can run it. Damon Williams, Bryce Underwood, another guy who's super athletic. And I think being in a different scheme is going to help him a lot as well. I just look at being able to handle that. I think that's going to be one of the defining characteristics of the season is how are they going to perform against those guys? Nico Amon-Mialva, UCLA.
Yep, he's coming
Rocco
here.
Beck's pretty mobile. Aiden Childs, I think he's going to run it a little more with Northwestern. Colton Joseph, the transfer that Wisconsin took in the portal from Old Dominion, he can run 21+ miles an hour at quarterback. Very dynamic with the ball in his hands, and they're going to be like almost like a modern triple option type of offense. So stylistically, you got to be able to defend the run this year. And then we talked about run pass option, being able to run, pass, pull. There's going to see a lot of that. So how do they defend that? Are they able to come up with solutions? That's going to be a defining characteristic of the season, being able to stop the run. That's what I'm watching for. Stop the run. That you got to earn the right to rush the passer. And if you want to pull the Ferraris out of the garage and go, like that's the key. You got to, if you want Bush and you want Smith and you want Menz on the field together all at the same time with Carmo mugged up in the A gap, then you got to be able to be in long down situations.
So it sounds like the over-under was 5, maybe 5.5. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line.
You're battling to make a bowl game, No,
I mean for the drafting. I'm sorry. Yeah. The Gopher number was 6 now, somebody's saying. So now all the listeners don't even have the meat sauce and Tommy Olsen bet.
I think now that you're saying it, it was 5.
5?
Yeah, I think they agreed at 5, yeah.
Over-under 5 draft picks for the Gophers. Daniel House. That's a tough number, I think.
It is a tough number to hit, especially to select right now.
Yes.
Like there's some, like we said, guys that you got to see this year, big development years.
Well, hopefully Tommy's getting help from his dad. Because I don't think he's getting that money back. That's a tough one to project the over.
I think he also needs the Gophers to win the Natty by next year. Otherwise, he owes some big cash as well.
There's a lot. They don't get Indiana. They do get Indiana. I'm sorry. They don't get Oregon and they don't get Ohio State, 2 teams that they played last year. I think the first month of the season is going to be telling.
I do too.
Mississippi State game you mentioned there. It's funny. You look at the message boards, and I do gophergazette.com, Bernsey. You look at the Mississippi State boards and you look at the Gopher boards of how they view each other and that game. It's pretty funny.
Is it really?
Yes.
I guess I haven't dug into
They have kind of a joint thing going on right now. And Mississippi State's like, we should win by 3 touchdowns. Gophers are like, we can't lose to this team. It's an interesting, it's a compelling game because it's SEC team hasn't been here, I don't think, ever. Maybe not since like the 50s. And so you've got that, but that sneaky, if it's going to be, a really good season, you've got at Washington and then Michigan at home.
Yes.
Back-to-back weeks. Like that, I think will tell you a lot about where the ceiling for this thing could go.
Absolutely. And then going on the road to Purdue too, a team that, last year was right down to the end. I mean, and now they've made some changes and they're going to try to run the football a little bit more. So coming off those 2 really physical games, you're going to Purdue on the road as well. And then you got a bye week and you're playing Iowa. But Mississippi State game to me is the barometer for this squad.
Really?
Like Kamario Taylor is super dynamic. He can keep it in the quarterback run game. And then the challenge of going against Zach Arnett's 3-3-5 defense. There is a ton of different looks that he deploys defensively. And that's going to tell us like, okay, how are the Gophers ready to like mentally handle the type of different types of defenses they're going to see this year? Because it's a unique scheme. It's kind of like that Tony White Nebraska defense that, has caused a lot of problems for teams in the past, especially trying to run the football because they just change the fronts all the time.
All right, so it's Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon are the top 3, right?
Yes.
Everybody, I mean,
Absolutely.
That's what Vegas says. Is that what Daniel House says, those 3?
I think Indiana wins it all again.
Do you really?
I do.
Because?
I think their defensive line is loaded.
Well, they might get guys back, right? Speaking of the 5 for 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stephen Daly, Wyatt, the pass rusher. And I like Josh Hoover a lot.
Okay.
I think like the scheme, they ran an RPO-heavy offense at TCU, and now going into Indiana with Cignetti and the ability to run the football. You got Charlie Becker and Nick Marsh, who's a great receiver at Michigan State that transferred in. Watch for Davion Chandler, wide receiver, potential breakout guy. I think Cignetti's just got the sauce, man. It's not just like the ability to like get good players like that are highly rated. This guy minds for people too. I mean, and he develops and he knows what works in his system. I think IU wins it all again. I mean, it's tough to do, but if anybody can do it, it's Cignetti.
Who are we not talking about in the Big Ten that we should be?
I think you go down to Westwood to UCLA.
You told me that 6 months ago. I wanted to know.
Chesney.
I wanted to know if it changed or not. You told me that in the spring, I think.
Yes.
What do you like about them?
I like how they handled the offseason. Bob Chesney's won everywhere he's been. Quite the journey if you go and look at the programs that he's been a part of. And now he comes in here and he not only retains the right players, the returning players that UCLA had, which I think they had some good talent on the team. They just weren't coached very well. Then brought a bunch of James Madison guys with them as well. I think their pass rush is going to be very good. Zahir West, a potential guy that could be an all Big Ten player for them, and then very solid in the secondary, versatile back there. And Nico Monmielva fits that scheme really well, the quarterback, that he can run and make some plays with his legs. And I think it's going to come down to the offensive line for UCLA. They've taken some gambles there, but portal-wise, they definitely invested in, they want to make sure they had enough interior offensive line play. And I think that's really important to set the dish for your quarterback. And I just feel Bob Chesney knows what he's doing, man. He set up that roster well and that he can win quickly.
Last topic, probably should have gotten it too early because people are always, first of all, there's a lot of Iowa and Wisconsin people that live here that listen. But Gopher fans, as you know, are always curious about those 2 specific rivals. And I know they get all 4 rivalry trophies this year. They've got Michigan and Penn State on the schedule. Give us your elevator speech on the border rivals, Iowa and Wisconsin. What to expect from them this year?
Iowa quarterback's the key. I mean, Jeremy
He just cooked at the open practice. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that 5 TDs.
Yeah.
Just slinging it all over the place.
The Iowa fans were beside themselves. And I have a lot of my family, as most people know. They were just beside themselves about what they saw.
But I think this is probably the best skill position room, top to bottom, Iowa's had in quite some time.
Okay.
I mean, Tony Diaz, UT Grand Valley transfer, Evan James from Furman, Reese Vanderzee back, G.J. Vanami at tight end, who I think can be a pretty high draft pick. And then watch for L.J. Phillips, running back from South Dakota transfer. This dude runs really low. He's super physical. I think this guy could potentially be a breakout player in the Big Ten. And then defensively, I think it's about up the middle. Defensive tackle, they've got some question marks there. The 2 safeties are gone. Cohen Entringer transferred to Louisville. Xavier Wampa's in the NFL. So they took 3 FCS transfers. They said, all right, well, we could pay 1 safety. Or how about we pay 3 productive FCS guys, and at minimum, they're going to become special teams players. Yeah. I think Iowa will be defined by the middle of that defensive line. We know Phil Parker, great defensive coach. So Iowa's going to be competitive just like always. Wisconsin's the wild card team for me.
I agree with you.
I am fascinated to watch Wisconsin.
Big push by them this year.
I really like what they did in the interior of their D-line. Junior Poyser, defensive tackle, transfer from Buffalo. Watch for this guy. I think he's going to be a very good player. Thought they did a good job up the middle of their defense. And then having a running quarterback like Colton Joseph, that really fits what Jeff Grimes wants to do defensively. Option looks, I said, more like the modern triple option. It comes down to cornerback play for them. They took some gambles, some highly rated guys that hadn't quite panned out. And receiver play, same kind of approach there. I think Jalen Domino, a transfer from southeastern Louisiana, that's the guy I kind of like as a potential emerging receiver for them.
Your brain fascinates me, my friend. I don't know how you did all that, but I'm glad you did. Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate you having me, man. Let's do more ball talk. I love this.
Daniel House, at Daniel House MN on Twitter, gophersguru.com to learn more about what he does. And he mentioned it, the different twists he has on a lot of stuff. As a guy who frequents the website a lot, I can tell you it's absolutely worth the subscription price. Safe travels home.
Thank you.
We'll see you a lot now, right? Coming up on football season.
Once a week, baby.
I love it.
Once a week. Let's go.
I love it. Thanks, House.
Thanks.
Daniel House, GophersGuru.com. When we come back, before Goessling, we'll give you a little bit more details on the new bosses of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the newest power couple, dethroning Parker Fox and Taylor Heisey on the weekend of their wedding. How rude.
In for Barrero. This is Justin Guard on the...
Get closer to the action with KFAN. Breaking sports news, exclusive contests, and more. Follow at KFAN 1003 on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X to stay connected.
Guardian for Barrero, Ben Goessling about 10 minutes from now. Max Fuller here. We've got Johnny Krasinski coming up in about an hour as well to talk about the big news of the day, the breaking news of the day.
Out of nowhere.
If you're a Timberwolves fan, it is out of nowhere, although I did think it was funny that we got, and we're going to talk to Johnny about this, we got the tweets from Johnny and Shams about the fact that Mark Lore is now no longer the number one owner of the Timberwolves. He still has some kind of financial stake, but he's selling his portion of the team to go concentrate on his other businesses, of which there are plenty. We got that tweet, and then like 9 minutes later, we got this story. Who is Mark Stad? Like, he was on it.
Yeah.
These guys were all on it. They were in the right group chat because we learned about this dude pretty quickly.
Yeah, and just a quick Google search of his name, there's about like 7 of those articles all of a sudden. I'd never even heard of this guy.
No, and here's the problem. In trying to get to know him a little bit, they're all essentially the same story.
Yeah.
There's like 7 pages now of who is this guy, and most of them are just Johnnies that have been aggregated or some other stuff, right? I think ESPN had a quick story on him as well. So anyway, Mark Lore is no longer the main owner. He's going to keep his courtside season tickets, so Rosen will still be able to say hi to him. I like how I say that. Like, I don't get to sit with Charlie Swanson and Alexis of Lyzetta. Like, I like that. I'm like the underground one that gets to hang.
We don't judge you for it, though.
Well, here's why. I try to be the one person that sits courtside that doesn't tweet about it.
Yeah.
That's my rule.
And you would sit elsewhere if you had to.
I do sit elsewhere. I have season tickets. Oh, good for me. They're not there, but so I guess I'll get to say hi. Or I'll get to nod at Mark Lore when he walks by and says hi to Charlie Swanson, Alexis of Wyzetta, and then Alex is there with his current girlfriend, whoever that may be. And then you go down the list. So who is this guy, Mark Stad? Because nobody had heard of him, like you said, and now there's only like 1 or 2 different stories about him that aren't the one that was written today.
Right.
He is, I believe, 47 years old. He's the founder of a San Francisco-based Dragoneer Investment Group, an investment firm with over $35 billion in assets under management. That's according to its LinkedIn profile. They specialize in technology investments, notable ventures into OpenAI, Anthropic, DoorDash, Spotify, and Airbnb. Would have been nice to get him on iHeartRadio.
Right.
I mean, let's go. Come on, Mark. It's free and it's easy to use. The Timberwolves channel's a preset. It's very easy to find the games. I'm going to have to bring that up if I see this guy and his wife. He grew up just outside L.A. in Montebello. We mentioned this earlier, but he was the first in his family to graduate from high school. Went to Harvard. And I just love this story. He didn't have enough money for a winter coat when he got to Harvard. And you need that in Cambridge. I don't know how much time you spent in Harvard Square, Goodwill Hunting, but
they recruited me a little bit. But,
yeah, you took a visit.
I took a visit, but I saw the campus and I was like, you know what? Normandale Community College is more fitting for me.
Normandale's the best, by the way.
It is.
I went there for 3 semesters. It's my favorite place I've ever been.
It's such an odd collection of people.
But it's great.
It is great in the best possible way. Oh, well, I didn't realize we had the same route. Normandale to the U.
There we go,
Let's
man.
Go.
There we go. Quick Harvard tangent. When my wife ran the Boston Marathon, we went to go visit Harvard, and I'm like, let's just go walk around. And I always think it's weird that you go to a college that's someone else's tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Like, you're not ducking tourists when we go to Normandale, right?
No, certainly
You're not coming to people that are just in the neighborhood and they want to see, or even the U or Iowa or St. Thomas, any of the other 7 schools that I went to. And so you're in that, those older buildings where like the John Harvard statue is, and all these buildings were built in 1672. And I know it's an exaggeration. I get it. 1800, let's say.
Yeah, when the pyramids were built.
And they've got like a great famous ice cream shop. Love that. They've got, I did hear that. They've got an old school ice cream shop, and you get ice cream. And so I'm sitting there, and you're just like, there's all these tables, and there's these people, these conversations are all 22 years old, and the things they're talking about don't even make sense. Like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And then I look down, and I have ice cream just all over myself. It just spilled all over. It's like pretty clear who's the tourist and who is the student. But he didn't have a coat, so he had to apply to an endowment fund at Harvard created specifically for students who couldn't afford warm clothes. He graduated from Harvard in 2001, then attended Stanford University Graduate School of Business, where he's a board member, and then just started in the finance world. And how's it going for him in the finance world? Here's another story that I found. What website is this? This is dirt.com.
Huh.
Never heard of it before?
That sounds like one of those domain names that Chris Hockey bought back in 2005.
Definitely. I'll just read you this. When billionaires go house shopping, their needs are invariably more complex than those of ordinary run-of-the-mill millionaires. There's space for full-time assistants and estate managers to consider, not to mention bodyguards and chefs. And one can't forget the extended family. What member of the Three Comma Club would buy a place for themselves and not buy a nice nearby house for grandma and grandpa too? What would the neighbors think? Perish the thought. So an ultra-wealthy San Francisco locals, Mark and Alyssa Stad, recently came down to Montecito looking for a vacation property. They didn't come home with the keys to just one estate. They bought two. One of them, $12.2 million, a shingle-sided mansion, 7 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, 14,000 square feet of living space, 2.1-acre lot, has 2 ancillary buildings that could be used as offices or guest and staff housing. It was built in 2008, has a full-size sport court, a 65-foot swimming pool with inset spa and Baja shelf. Don't even know what that is.
What the hell is that?
A 10-seat movie theater, mirror wall gym, and 2 3-car garages. There are elegant formal living and dining rooms, plus an eat-in kitchen and wood-paneled library, and some parts of the lush backyard sport ocean views. So 3 weeks after that, they closed on another home. This one, $29 million.
Oh.
Mediterranean-style mansion tucked even further up in the Montecito Hills with spectacular views of the sea. The nearly 13,000 square foot structure was built in 2005. Offers a formal motor court that's more reminiscent of a palazzo in Italy than an ordinary American driveway. There's a huge expanses of grassy lawns, a swimming pool set into a broad stone patio, 6 bedrooms, a gym, a sumptuous kitchen with dual islands.
So his ventures into the financial world seem to have been pretty well.
I think the moral is of this story, if the Timberwolves are not in the second apron, it's not because these guys are afraid to pay the luxury tax.
Right.
It's because they want to make transactions and be able to have their first-round pick and everything like that. This couple is doing very, very well. We'll give you more details on the new Timberwolves owner a little bit later in the show. When we come back, though, back to football. Ben Goessling makes his weekly appearance. Talk about Vikings joint practices. We'll talk about J.J. McCarthy and anything else that is on Ben's mind. He joins next.
Justin Guard in for Barrero.
Countdown to the Minnesota State Fair is on. Visit the KFAN booth at Carousel Park, presented by Mesh, Fesher, and Spence, starting August 27th. 4 live shows, brand new KFAN gear, and a free original chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A with every purchase while supplies last. Details at KFAN.com/fair.
That is the sneaky MVP, I think, of the State Fair this year.
It really is, though.
You buy a shirt or you buy something at the pro shop in Carousel Park, and you get a free Chick-fil-A sandwich.
No 2 free throws missed needed.
Exactly.
Get a free sandwich.
No bricking for chicken.
Which, have you ever actually, cashed in on those?
Absolutely.
The next day, the line is out the
Yes.
door, and every single person in line has the Timberwolves app open.
The one I liked before was when they did, if you made 13 threes, if the Wolves made 13 threes, you could go get a free beef and cheddar from Arby's the next day. We had a neighbor, John, who listens a lot. That dude, he was so funny because he's like, once they traded for D'Lo, he was getting beef and cheddar like
Every
3
night.
times a week.
Right.
And he even said it. He goes, once they got D'Lo, he's like, we get a beef and cheddar like every game. He makes 4 or 5 threes. The other guys make 3. And he would text us in line the next day. It was great.
That's how I feel about the McDonald's one. If the Vikings score 2 touchdowns, you get a free Big Mac.
Great deal.
I was. You would have thought that I had my life savings on the game the way that I was cheering for those touchdowns for that free Big Mac.
For sure. Let's get to our Friday regular, 4:30. Ben Goessling's on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I want to start, Ben, with a writing question or a journalism question, a beat writer question, if you're good with that. Are we good?
Yeah, let's do it.
When you have to profile a new coach, or in this case, a new owner, how much due diligence do you do on the little nuggets that you might find in something that was written on them like 15 years ago? And the example I'm bringing up is the new Wolves owner, Mark Stad, first in his family to go to college, went to Harvard. The story that really the only thing we know about this guy is when he got to Harvard, he didn't have enough money to get a coat. And so he had to go to basically the Harvard Endowment Fund, where they had a scholarship program for people that couldn't afford coats at the school. And that's how he got his first North Face. You won't believe the skepticism to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686 that is a believable story. So would you second source that, or would the article in the Harvard Crimson be good enough for you to put that detail in the feature story that you write about a new owner or coach?
Well, ideally, you want to second source it, or at least verify where it came from. I won't say that always happens. I mean, it's one of those things that you try to do. I don't know that everybody does it all the time. You should. I can remember one when Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah got hired as the Vikings GM.
The basketball.
This thing about that he played basketball at Princeton.
Yep.
And
yep.
Like, hey, it doesn't show up on any of their rosters, so we had to look into that. I think a couple of us ended up having to do this. Princeton had a JV basketball team in college, and I think that's what he actually ended up doing. So it was like having to check out that detail before you used it in the story. I think it had been written at some point, and these things, when they get written, they become part of the kind of the story of this person, and this is happening probably even more now with Google, where they'll compile things in the AI summary you get at the top of a Google search on somebody. A lot of that data is pulled from stories, and it's kind of presented as fact, and it's very easy to think, oh, okay, I saw it on Google, therefore it must be true. And these things can get from the point of, hey, it was a story, to this is a verified fact about this person. So, yes, ideally, and probably even more so now, you should second source those things and double check them, because a lot of times somebody will say it, it's a good little anecdote, and there may be some truth to it, but there may be some things that you need to double check.
That is the perfect example, the one you just came up with. I'd forgotten about that. And he even had to kind of, it feels like he had to kind of explain it, that it was almost like less than the JV team. It was like, it was like pickup ball noon on Thursdays, and that's what Kwesi did in between commodities classes. That is the best example.
Yeah, it was one of those things that it was like when you got into it, he was almost, and I wouldn't say embarrassed by it, but like, hey, this got blown up, and this is one of those details that you figure when you do it at the time, it's like you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be the general manager of an NFL team in 20 years or whatever it is.
Exactly.
I'm going to have reporters coming back and asking me what this was like. But yes, it can turn into one of those things later in life, I suppose, and yes, I think at the time he was a little astonished that it was becoming a big thing. But, when you have that many eyes on you, it tends to go that way, and every little detail becomes part of your past and becomes one of those things people want to know about.
Yeah, when you slide it in your Bear Stearns resume, you don't ever think it's going to be, C1 on the Star Tribune. You're just trying to get a gig. You're just trying to get your foot in the door. And actually, Alyssa Stad, his wife, she's an author. She's done a bunch of podcasts. She's got an interesting backstory as well. And I feel like she's about to because she's the new governor of the team. She's technically the front face for league matters. So she's going to be around. It'll be interesting because there's actually more information about her than there is her husband. But interesting to say the least. All right.
Yeah.
Your headline from joint practices, the Ben Goessling lead. If you were to pick one thing from the joint practices, it would be what?
Well, I would say the Kyler Murray-Justin Jefferson relationship would be the thing I was most interested to see. It's the thing I wrote about today.
Yep.
It was a window into how these two are going to work together and what needs to happen for them to work together effectively, because I think that is a really important piece of what happens to the Vikings this year is how well can Kyler Murray connect with Justin Jefferson and how much can they get Justin Jefferson back to the point where he's at the top of the league in terms of receiving stats, in terms of productivity, in terms of just how people and how he feels about his role. Because it wasn't as if he had a bad year last year, and a lot of it was out of his control, but it was a frustrating year for him, no doubt. And I think a lot of these couple days were our first window into, okay, these two guys are getting full practices together. They're facing a starting unit from another team. It's the only time we're going to see that before September 13th, and you're going to get a team that has a good defense and a good secondary. So that first day, it was a lot of those corners, Wiggins and Humphrey, up in Jefferson's face. He was getting frustrated. He's looking at the officials saying, where's the call? Murray had a number of times where he's got rushers in his face, and the Ravens front had a lot of guys with big frames that were able to get their hands in the way and kind of choke off passing lanes. And then at the end of that practice, Murray throw off his back and splits a double team and scores a touchdown, does the gritty, everybody goes nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about it yesterday. I mean, he talks all the time about trust with quarterbacks, where he wants them to trust him to go up and get a ball and trust themselves that, hey, even if he's covered, I can get myself in a position where I can launch downfield and find him and everything will be fine. He said that play was a good example of what he's talking about with those things. And I think it was a little bit of a window into what they want to see the quarterback get back to, because you didn't see as much of that with McCarthy last year. And certainly Sam Darnold did a lot of it. And I think that is the thing I was most interested to see. The defense was really impressive yesterday. They made things very difficult for Lamar Jackson. And there's a lot to like about what they did. But I think a lot of what will determine the success of this team this year is certainly Kyler Murray, but also, and maybe most specifically, how he plays with Justin Jefferson. And that was certainly worth watching. And the turning point really was that long pass. They were better yesterday. But, yeah, all of those things I think are indicative of what we'll see early in the season as these two try to get going together.
Early in camp, Mark Wilf, speaking of owners, met with you guys, and he uttered the quote, patience isn't infinite. He was kind of just talking about, we want to win games, we want to win playoff games, we want to win a Super Bowl, the whole thing. How would you assess Justin Jefferson's patience level through the last few years? And if there's a patience tank for him, how full is it right now as he tries to figure out what should be the prime of his career?
Well, I would say this. I mean, there were a lot of people in that building. You talk to people at the combine and things in the offseason, just kind of about how the season went. Everybody was very quick to point out how grateful they were that Justin Jefferson saw the big picture, handled it the way he did, because we've seen a lot of guys at that position. We've seen a lot of guys in Minnesota at that position that if they have issues with the quarterback or they think things need to be different, they're not shy about saying it or being, perhaps cryptic about it, perhaps leaving the team for a day or two and then, feigning that they had a cold and that's why they missed practice. I mean, we've seen a lot of those different things over the years. I didn't cover Randy Moss, and I've seen a fair amount of fireworks with receivers and quarterbacks. So there is a lot of that in the history of this team and the history of that position across the league. Jefferson was honest about it, but never seemed like he was unaware of the big picture and the need to develop a quarterback and his role in making that happen. So I think a lot of people in that building were very appreciative of the way he handled it, but they also know we have to do right by this guy because he is heading into year 7. He's still looking for his first playoff win in the NFL. He's only played 2 playoff games in whole in the NFL. So, and he wants to break records. He wants to break Jerry Rice records that are going to be very difficult for him to reach, even if he is successful. He basically has to have the career he's had now, plus Reggie Wayne's entire career, to catch Jerry Rice for the yardage record.
Yeah.
So it is going to be difficult to do, and he has ambitious goals. He wants to catch a lot of those things, and quarterbacks have to be part of that. So I think his patience is okay. I think overall he understands the big picture of things, but there's no doubt that part of why Kyler Murray is here is to get Justin Jefferson going again. I've talked to enough people about that, both with the team and just kind of in the Jefferson camp, to know that there's a lot riding on this. I don't think we're at a point where anybody's going to be looking for an exit, but just there's an understanding that this guy wants to do big things. He wants to win championships. He wants to break records. And to make that happen, you have to have a good faith showing for him at that position, because he caught just about every pass in his first 3 seasons from one quarterback. And since that quarterback, Kirk Cousins, got hurt, I think he's played 40 games, and Kyler Murray will be the 8th quarterback that he's worked with since Kirk Cousins got hurt. So basically every 5 games you're talking about a different quarterback since 2023, and that doesn't work for anybody. So we don't know if Murray's going to be the long-term answer, but I think getting back to the point where he's got a productive quarterback that he can count on is going to have a lot to do with how the rest of his career in Minnesota goes and how long that patience stays at the level that it's been at this point.
A lot of those nuggets were in Ben's story that he referenced today, StarTribune.com. Highly recommend it. Good stuff from the Vikings beat writer. Joins Bumper to Bumper weekly during the football season, right around 4:30 on Friday. He's with us now in the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Guardsy in for Barrero today. Something else that they hope will unlock Justin Jefferson is the running game, and we've talked about it all training camp. The verdict after joint practice 1, I think Brian O'Neill, among others, said we were too reactionary, we weren't aggressive enough. We need to be better day 2 in terms of running the ball. Were they?
Yeah, I think they were overall. I mean, I actually thought they ran the ball better than they threw it the first day. I mean, that may be, damning with faint praise a little bit, but yeah, I think they were overall more effective once they kind of had a better sense of what that front was going to offer and what they were going to see from that group. I think overall they understand kind of what they're trying to do. There has been a lot of talk from coaches and from players about the need to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, to be a little more forceful, to be able to keep defensive fronts on their heels and backpedaling a little bit, because you're just taking it to them from a physical standpoint. It's as much about that as mobility and angles and those things. I mean, I think all of that plays into what they want to do, especially in a wide zone scheme, but you need to see them be more effective on that front. And I think it was probably good for them to taste a little bit of that the first day. I think, those linemen enjoyed the ability to hit somebody else, and they enjoyed playing against a front that was going to challenge them, because I think there was a physical nature to these practices that a lot of those players relished, and that's certainly something to continue to lean into with this group, and it's going to be a big part of it, because I think this run game can help. I think this run game can make things easier for Murray. They can make things, maybe if teams are staying in shells and playing over the top of Justin Jefferson, you can tell them, all right, fine. If you want to keep guys back and worry about Justin Jefferson, you're going to have a lighter box and we're going to run the ball on you, and then maybe you have to change some things up. So a lot of what they're trying to do, I think, is to make that into a better complement for the passing game than it's been. And the way they want to do that is by having a group that can exert its will a little bit. And I think you saw some moments of that in these practices against the Ravens.
On the Dallas Turner hype train, are you in the first class section? Are you in coach? Are you in the caboose? Or are you waiting at the station? Where do you stand on what we've kind of been seeing from Dallas Turner this camp?
I would say I am certainly on the train. First class, I think, is always a little hard to do at this point, because you have not seen quarterbacks being taken to the ground. And a guy getting into the backfield to get a quarterback is, pressures are a big part of that, but being able to finish plays is not something we get to measure in training camp. It's just not something we see happen until games are played. And he had a sack in that game on Saturday. He's looked a lot better, and I think there's a lot of reason for optimism with him. The question is, does that continue through 17 games? Does that continue when he is the focus of teams blocking, when he's getting the tight end chips, when he's getting maybe some double teams? If those things come his way, as they did with Jonathan Grenard, how productive can he be with those sets of attention coming toward him? I think that's a lot of what we're going to see, and that's maybe why I want to have a little better window into it over a span of 4 or 5 regular season games before I say that for sure, because I think that's a lot of the job. You are going to have teams that figure out what you do well. They're going to make you work your secondary move. They're going to take away some of the things that you like to go to at first blush, and you have to be able to counter that. So I think the course of being a successful pass rusher in the NFL has a lot to do with what you do when you have to make adjustments, and we'll get a better idea of that probably as we go and there's more game planning done. And then you just get that thing of how often are you turning pressures into sacks, and how often are you getting your hands on a quarterback, affecting him rather than just getting near him. I mean, that pressure is good, yes, but quarterback hits and sacks are an important part of the puzzle as well, and you get a better sense of those things once you get into game action a little more.
What have we seen from Caleb Banks, the very controversial first-round pick?
Yeah, I actually had a really interesting conversation with him after the game on Saturday in the locker room. He was one of the guys on that Devin Singletary 3rd and 23 that went for 40 yards, took a bad angle on that. He admitted that he needed to be in a better spot there. And then I think there was a play against Cam Skadaboo where he broke into the backfield and had a chance to bring him down, took an angle where he got one hand on him. Skadaboo went for 7 yards, I think, on a play. He basically said, I wasn't supposed to do that. I was going off of what I saw in terms of the gaps and realizing that Francis Malioga, their first-round pick, wasn't going to be worried about him on that play. So he said, judging the situation, I can take a shot here. And I followed up with him a little bit to say, hey, what was the coaching point there? And it sounded like a lot of the coaches said, yeah, if you are reading those things well and you're making your call on solid information and having a good process, yeah, take those chances at times. I think experience and wisdom will give them a better sense of how often to do that. But he is, I think, showing some instincts of how to read leverages and how to read angles and figure out where blocking schemes are designed to go, and if he has chances to make plays. A lot of it is going to come down to technique in the line of scrimmage. His pad level was kind of high. He admitted some of that. He had some plays where tackles and guards were pushing him back because he was playing a little bit high, and for a guy as big as he is, that is going to be something he has to adjust and work through. But there is, I think, a lot to like in terms of the enthusiasm, the interest in learning the finer points of playing in this defense is something that he seems to gravitate toward. He's got a lot to learn. I think there's going to be a lot of time for him to develop, but the physical traits are there. It's just a matter of how much can you harness those things, play the right kind of leverage, play the right kind of technique in the NFL, and then put it all in a spot where you can use maybe some of those instincts and some of that ability to take chances and be right about them. There's some learning moments there in that first game for him. It's certainly going to be interesting to see him tomorrow and how they continue to develop him, because he's a guy that has everything they want in an interior pass rusher. It's just a matter of how do you harness all of that and polish it in the course of the season.
What are they hoping to see from tomorrow's starter, J.J. McCarthy?
I think the biggest thing is, can you run the offense a little more crisply than he did last Saturday? You need times where you're not holding the ball as much. You need some of the procedural stuff to be better than it was, whether it's the jet sweep to Jayshon Jones. There was an illegal motion. There were a couple of plays where he's overthrowing somebody or holding the ball where they maybe have I think there was one where he holds it and rolls out, and if he just stays in the pocket, there's a crossing route there maybe for a first down. I think a lot of it is you don't have to see him be spectacular, but you want to see, can he string drives together? Can he convert first downs? I mean, a lot of those drives ended in punts last week, and I would think he'll get more time tomorrow. Obviously, he'll start the game, and I would imagine he'll get a decent chunk of it, especially if they're still trying to keep Max Brosmer's workload down a little bit. We'll see how that goes. It depends on how they're feeling about that hand, but if it's mostly McCarthy and Carson Wentz, I think McCarthy's going to get a fair amount of time, which gives you a better sense of where he's at. I just think the things you've heard O'Connell talk about, whether it's the power of completions or playing on time, playing with rhythm and timing, those are the things that we hear him stress with McCarthy, and it almost becomes a talking point. It becomes a little bit of a broken record, but
yep.
I don't think the head coach wants to be saying those things any more than he has to. It's just you want to see those things become regular habits. So that's what I would be very interested to see tomorrow is, can he take a step in the right direction there?
And if he does, will you guys give it a rest with KOC on who the backup quarterback is? Will you give KOC a break? I swear no coach has been asked more. They're all asked about the starters. No one's been asked more about who the backup quarterback is than KOC. Will you guys be able to give it a rest if JJ puts together a couple of good possessions tomorrow?
I think it's always, as Pat Royce has often said, what we write is ultimately up to the people we write about. If they are successful, we'll write that they're successful. If they're not, we'll write that they're not. So a lot of it is you write what you see and you write what you observe happening on the field. If he's successful, yeah, I think it changes some of those things. I mean, Carson Wentz certainly was more efficient last week than he was, and the question with him is, if you have to put him in for a game or two in the middle of the season, is he going to run your offense to a level that you can win?
Right.
And I think if he shows some of those things tomorrow, yes, it will help quiet some of those questions, at least for the time being. I can't speak for everybody, but I think answering some of those things on the field would be a good way to get everybody moving on a little bit from that topic.
Yeah, we were talking about it a lot, obviously, because you guys were too. And like right now, it's easy for him to say JJ's our backup quarterback. Where it gets difficult is if Kyler Murray goes down in the Green Bay game. What do you say in that Tuesday? You know, even if JJ has to go in there, that's where the real test is, obviously. Because now it does KOC no good to go, we're still looking at that. Like, it's already a pear-shaped situation, right? There's no reason to keep pouring gas on the JJ McCarthy fire. But I did have to chuckle because I swear no one's been asked about the backup quarterback situation more than KOC this training camp.
Yes, I'm sure he has loved having to get into the decision process on QB2 after he already was asked about QB1 for the first part of training camp.
Yep.
So, but then if we get through that, then you got North Dakota State guy versus row the boat guy. So the QB3 thing could be next. I would say
just go down the list.
KOC, if you get this one done, there's one more. It's a game of whack-a-mole here. So there's no shortage of quarterback talkers, which we like, but this may not be the last one. There could be everybody loves a trilogy, so maybe the third episode of the trilogy is coming after this one is done too.
Well, and if it really goes bad, you can ask him about what he thinks about Drake Lindsay as a first-round quarterback draft, and if he'll be the coach for it. I mean, you can play it out for sure. Lastly, I know you unlike Seifert and others, you don't mind the State Fair. Dare I say you enjoy the State Fair, and now that it is, in fact, right around the corner. What's the Ben Goessling State Fair agenda? Not like what day are you coming to see us and everything, but when you go, what are the Goessling must-haves for those that maybe are making their first trip or want to be refreshed on what they need to hit?
I mean, Sweet Martha's is high on the list for me. I mean, that's not. I'm not the first to say that, but my wife's aunt works at Sweet Martha's, so they're being able to go in and see her, and she's able to kind of get some of the friends and family stuff sometimes, so you don't have to wait in the line all the time. She's usually able to kind of bring you the ones that are a little deformed and maybe aren't quite as good.
Like it.
So I think they can do some of that for her friends and family. So we usually try to go on a day where she's going to be there, so we get that. But it's always been the pickle on a stick. But we went to like the State Fair preview thing because we started doing that, the one in May, the Memorial Day thing. And
love it.
I went fried pickles instead of pickle on a stick this year, and that was a big shift and a good one.
Fried pickles are elite.
Orders of those.
Yep, they're unbelievable.
We'll be back for some of those. Yeah, we'll be, and then like the Mancini's garlic toast. When you can go get that from the stand, I that's always on the list. A corn dog at some point, but this year will be kind of fun. My daughter is going to be a freshman at Minneapolis Southwest, and the marching band parade I think is on September 3rd. So I know I will be there that day watching that, and then probably figure out one of the radio appearances, whether with you guys or PA, on that day, and we'll find a second day to go. But I typically like going.
Good.
See what the grandstand looks like too, and but I always enjoy going and being able to spend some time there. So looking forward to being there probably at least twice over the course of the next few weeks here.
Outstanding. We'll see you there. And bring the deformed cookies. A deformed cookie is better than no cookie at all. So I'm good. We're good with that.
They all taste the same.
Yeah, they do. It's all good. Thank you, sir. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Thanks, Garzy. We'll talk to you later.
Is Ben Goessling making his weekly appearance on Bumper to Bumper. When we come back, well, first of all, we got Johnny Athletic to talk about the Wolves ownership stuff. That's a little bit later in the 5 o'clock hour. Max, always good on the top 5 at 5. We'll hear what he's come up with when we return.
In for Barrero, this is Justin Guard on the Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This